This guide is meant to be a sort of a continuation to my old Auto Chikage tutorial, as in that video I didn't cover or just didn't go more in depth with many of the advanced strategies and fundamentals you may want to know when you're moving from learning the weapon to getting better with it. In this little guide I'm going to explain how to avoid making mistakes, how to approach different fights, how to get better at fundamentals, and how to deal with bad matchups. In a few words, yes, this is the right place if you want to become a Kage god. Before starting, I want to clarify a couple things. First of all, this video will be focused on the blood form of the weapon and strictly for 2cat builds. The physical form doesn't play that different from any other weapon in the game and, in my opinion, doesn't really require any sort of guide or tutorial. Learning its moveset and Bloodborne's PvP fundamentals will be more than enough if you just want to mess around with the untricked form. Also, given the nature of the weapon, making a meta build for playing Kage all around won't just let you take advantage of the weapon's full potential. Which is not a bad thing per se, but here you want to get the best possible out of the weapon. Second, this guide will showcase how to play Kage in order to get the highest possible number of wins. It won't be a full moveset showcase or a video on how you can do fancy stuff in Bloodborne. It's a tryhard guide teaching people, as I already said, how to get the very best out of the weapon in order to win fights and uphill matchups. There's nothing wrong if you don't care about winning or you play the game just for fun and you like to sandbag. People are entitled to have fun the way they want. That being said, I'm pretty sure you'll feel more comfortable watching a different type of content in a different channel. Without further ado, let's get into the guide. Chikage fits in many different builds as long as you have the minimum stat requirement to wield the weapon. I'd say with out of shape gems, 40 blood tinge is the lower you want to go. As for a dedicated build, this is the 2cat build I always use and that got copied by most of the Chikage players out there. 73 vitality because of survivability. You need to be tanky so you can win trades thanks to Chikage burst damage. 10 strength and 40 skill are the minimum stat requirement to wield the weapon. 50 is the soft cap for blood tinge and of course 15 arcane for beast roar. Beast Roar is a tool you always want to have in any meta build. It grants you a free heal when landed and also synergizes really well with Kage, unlocking a great combo potential. But don't worry, I'm going to show you during the video. As for gems, you definitely want to have a full set of 31.5s. The strength of Chikage resides into its burst damage. You really want to get the highest possible AR out of the weapon. You can farm out of shape blood tip gems in this glyph. The grind is going to be wild because the drop rate for perfect 31s is pretty bad, but trust me, you won't regret it. So, what is 2cat? Why do I use 2cat? 2cat is a name that comes from Demon Souls PvP, which means 2 katanas. Basically means you allocate 2 Chikage in your right hand slots. But why that? Well, if you want to strictly play Chikage like I do, toggling between the two of them makes you have a faster access to your gun and to the end-zip, letting you punish heals and making pressure. The animation you get pressing L1 and transforming the Chikage from tricked state to the untricked, it's slower than toggling. That's why dedicated Chikage players go 2cat instead of single Chikage. Let's talk about the place of the weapon in the tier list. I've ranked Chikage as C. Lots of misinformation has been spread around from people, mostly from people new to the game, scared by the high damage they see on screen. or from players that played on release when everyone thought Kage was meta. The truth is, Chikage suffers a lot against fast spammy weapons, and also suffers against hyper armor and dash R1 weapons. At the same time, it requires quite a lot of practice to get good at, because it kind of requires a dedicated playstyle. Lastly, anything Kage does, aside from a couple moves, is perfectly reactable, and that's what really makes the difference on tier lists in this type of games. However, I definitely rank Chikage as a B tier weapon in the right hands, but that's more of a player-based opinion than a weapon ranking. Let's now get into the gameplay, starting with the unzip. Unzip is in-game slang to call the L1R1 attack starting from the untricked form. The attack does a wide arc starting from the left and ending on the right of the screen. This is the most famous and common Chikage attack. If you aren't new to the game, you've definitely seen people spamming unzips all the time, and that's because the attack multiplier is high, it's good to punish bad plays, and the most important thing, it's a roll catch machine. Roll catching in Bloodborne deals instability damage, which results in a 30% bonus on the neutral attack, which also means you can 2 or 3 shot your enemy out of a roll catch combo. The unzip animation has a 2 seconds wind up, so you can approach your opponent, bait the attack, wait for the roll, and roll catch on reaction. See here, I wait for their roll and then roll catch on reaction. You don't even need to unlock the unzip most of the times, a simple relock is more than enough. Although, this won't work against people that know how to roll Chikage on reaction, but do not despair, you can still roll catch experienced players with what I call a out of the screen. Out of the screen means that you basically free aim the R1 or the R2, predicting the direction the opponent is going to dodge. So you can roll catch the very end of their dodge even if they try to roll the attack on reaction. That can result in you landing the hit outside of the camera angle, so out of the screen. As you can see in this clip, they would have reaction rolled the attack just fine if I wouldn't have free aimed and predicted the direction of their roll. Here I predict the delayed roll and catch it with a top tier 2. This results in a really cool finisher if landed. Another way to put pressure and try to initiate a roll catch chain is using Beast Roar. After you land the first unzip or any R1 combo, you can Beast Roar to set up a new unzip. You'll probably already figure out at this point that using Beast Roar is my favorite way of aggressing out of neutral with 2cat. Beast Roar is also great and helpful to regen stamina if you're low. In a few words, it's an amazing tool and it goes with 2cat like bread and butter. Here you can watch how I use Beast Roar and Evelyn to keep the aggression on the enemy on point. Beast Roar helps me to set up the unzip and prevents the adversary to go on the offensive. Strafing is a super important fundamental to learn. It synergizes greatly with the unzip, allowing you to punish whiffs and bad plays. Strafing the unzip is extremely good to punish gunshots or thrust-based attacks. If you play someone who's trying to parry your unzip play instead of rolling away, knowing how to strafe a gunshot properly will neutralize their strategy. You can strafe either locked on or unlocked. However, this is a mechanic that gets greatly influenced by latency. On high latency scenarios, you may want to unlock your unzip on a wider angle to avoid getting parried. How to strafe properly is something you should learn anyways, regardless of playing with Kage or not. It's the best way to grant yourself a heal without using Beast Roar. One of the main issues I have seen watching average Kage players is the sprint control. In Bloodborne you cannot dodge while sprinting, so any dodge attempted in sprinting frames will result in a jump. Which is bad, because the jump has no iframes, and if you get hit while jumping you also get instability damage. Also, a bad sprint control can make you miss space, miss the attack and hit full damage from your opponent, or just trade when you don't want to. Learning to control your sprint is a good way to improve your spacing, manage pressure and to avoid making mistakes that will likely result in a loss. One hint I can give here is stop sprinting if you see your opponent is going to attack as soon as you are inside his weapon range. Here I see that going straight on for the unzip would lead me into a bad trade, so I stop the sprint and roll. This one is a common scenario. I misspaced the unzip, so trying to land the attack will result in a whiff punish. In this case, another Kage stopped R2. I realized I would whiff, so I stopped and dodged the R2. Here I use the transform cancel to avoid a latency trade, then proceed to roll catch with a neutral R1. Chikage gets you pretty much everything you need if you know what to do. It's got space covering attacks, aggressive option, and also a way to play defensive and reactive. Starting with spacing, you can outspace long recovery attacks and whiff punish with the unzip. Like here, I outspace and whiff punish a Burial Blade transform attack. Same here with Ludwig's true combo. Here I'm countering Kage's unzip with a top tier 2. This is a bit different, cause I'm with punishing a weapon with almost no recovery like Spear. Spacing skills must be above average for this. You can also whiff punish from neutral using the transform cancel. This is a less efficient but more stylish solution. Another thing you can do is outspace and true punish with Beast Roar. As for aggressing, we already covered the unzip and the roll catch part, but it's also worth mentioning the neutral play, which is likely the best part of Chikage when it comes to dealing with more experienced players that won't fall often into the unzip, or players using fast weapons that can just mash you when two-handing, and or relying a lot on their guns. The first R1 out of the chain is reactable. Avoid relying on that too much unless it's a whiff punish. The quickstep or roll R1 is crazy good after a Abyssal iframe or to punish gunshots. The second, the third and the fourth R1 all come out really fast and can also backswing. Spamming the R1 chain is in fact not a bad idea, especially after a landed unzip, cause the enemy could be in a bad positioning and might end up getting blendered. Last but not least, the side dasher ones have a wide angle and better perform if unlocked and relocked. A bigger mistake most people can commit when playing 2cat is relying too much on the unlocked part. Don't get me wrong, unlocking is good, but when you play on the defensive you really want to stay locked on, especially if you're facing fast and spammy weapons. Being locked on will allow you to direct your dodge in the right way, avoid getting blendered, and when you have gained the right distance, setting up for aggression. In this clip, you can see how I stay locked down pretty much all the time, and this because I have to deal with the insane pressure of Soul Spear. There's no magic formula when you fight Sows, you just gotta outplay the Sow player, but again, staying locked on can help you gaining the right distance and setting up for a new aggression. Another thing worth mentioning is Chikage's riposts. Having no strength and skill investment and jamming up the weapon with Bloodborne gems will result in Viscerals doing very little damage. However, you can still get a bunch of true combos out of a parry. Unzip into R1, unzip into L1 and top R2 into R1. Landing any of these combos results into a massive amount of damage. I wouldn't recommend top R2 into R1 as your main riposte option, cause it requires an extremely fast execution and ends up being inconsistent. Even if you get the parry, trading with attacks having Ike its stun will deny you the time needed for the combo. In these scenarios, it's just better to get the normal riposte, so you can at least rally your HPs back. Like here, I get stunned by a rider running attack. I rally back my HPs and then set up for a cool out of the screen. It goes without saying that Evelyn is a major part of anyone's 2cat playstyle. Get it for free and it's strong, don't be shy when it comes to its use. However, there is a huge difference between being effective with guns and just spam. First of all, you want to know that Evelyn's angle is different from pistols, so you always want to be aware of your positioning, or you'll find yourself missing a lot of shots point blank. The most important part though is learning how to unlock and relock your gunshots properly, covering any angle your opponent will try to exploit. As you can see here, I unlock and relock the gunshot, preventing my opponent to get a free heal on my blind spot. This is a tad different cause I'm relocking to prevent a strafe heal at range. One last funny thing you can do with your Evelyn is you can combo a gunshot out of a beast roar if your opponent wakes up late from the knockdown. Blunderbuss also can be very useful when it comes to mix-up options. It's got air stun, so it gives you time to set up the unzip after a shot. It also gets decent damage at 50 blood tinge and can be nice to parry quick step attacks and to interrupt strafe heals. Beware though, its air recovery can get you punished if your opponent reads your intentions. And that's it. This is pretty much a huge chunk of my knowledge on Chikage's fundamentals. I'm positive that will be helpful to all the 2Cat enjoyers out there. If you like this tutorial or any of my videos, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. It's a small gesture, but it means a lot to me. Thanks for watching and have a good one.